Hello, my fellow artist. Would you care to learn how to make a very interesting drawing? Take someone's name and give it an extra flair? Well, look no further. This is what I like to call a folding name drawing, where you take someone's name, mine in particular, and it unfolds into a drawing. Now, this is something that I don't know if I entirely coined, but thought of when I was about 14. I saw like a crime show or something where the serial killer draws a drawing that unfolds into a different drawing, and it like reveals the plot or something like that. But that's where I got it. And throughout high school, throughout college, throughout up until now, I've made them for people's birthdays, Christmas gifts, things like that. People love them. And it's an interesting way to challenge yourself creatively, and you'll see why. But I made photocopies of all of them throughout the years. I can only find one where I asked a lovely woman to prom, and it was an effective method, and perhaps she still has it. Who knows? Regardless, this is a very interesting, thing to practice and thing to learn. So if you would care to learn how to make a folding name drawing, then let's begin. Alright, so get yourself a regular sheet of paper, printer paper preferably. I find that printer paper is the easiest to fold. If you get anything thicker, it's a little bit more difficult. Now, right here, you're going to want to match up the folding just like I'm doing. You can experiment with where you want to fold it, but you just want to make sure that you have enough room to draw the full name and separate the name into equally halved halves, if you catch my meaning. So right here I am making the folds in order to fully capture the name as well as the inside. And that's pretty much how it is right there. Now, we're going to take a pencil, whether it's, I prefer a lighter pencil, something like H, if you will. And we're just going to sketch out what it is that we're going to do, what we're going to come in later with to ink over. Now, I'm using bubble letters. You can experiment with any type of letters, but this helps with the sort of organic shape so that you can improvise with the halves of the name. Because if you haven't been able to tell by now, when the paper is in half like that, you have two halves of shapes, two halves of possible shapes. Now, you want to make lines like that so that you know where the paper folds, so that when you fold it, you haven't drawn anything that's going to peek out and ruin the illusion of the folded name, if you will. Now, I'm just sketching out whatever I see out of the different halves of the name. So I saw two legs out of the I and the one of the legs of the N, and I was making a little gingerbread man. Now, it can be kind of tricky to figure out what you're going to do, but that's the fun part and that's the challenging part, and it can be very improvised. If you do want, you can include things that perhaps if you are making this for somebody, you can include things that are, relatable to them. Anyway, so you sketch out the drawing, and I would recommend being as detailed and as creative as you possibly can, because it's just going to have that much more of an impact for the reveal. Because personally, I like to hand the drawing to people in the folded form, and then they open it, and then it's quite a lovely surprise. However, you can also hand it to them, the full drawing, and then have them fold it and see that it's their name. So what's the right approach? You decide. Now, gonna ink over everything that I've done here, and I like to ink over the name first. So fold it and then ink over the name. I like putting a sheet under the drawing as well, another piece of paper, because I feel it gives the pen more cushion. I'm using a G2 Pilot, arguably one of the best pens in the world, and I find that it gets great clean lines, and that's really what I'm using for this clean line style. That's what I think is the most effective. You can definitely experiment with that as well, though. But I like to do the name first so that you can see that it works. You can see that it works, and you can also have these halves that are already complete. So now you can continue with the rest of your drawing without having to worry about a drawing peeking out under the fold to ruin the illusion, if you will. But anyway, going through it, I'm using a G2 Pilot pen, a 10, a number 10, and I like the boldness of the 10 because later, after I've inked everything, I will go in with a much finer pen, like a 5 or a 7. And the contrast of the lines is satisfying to me. So, and I'll add some details too as well, not just shading. But when I was really young, I would admire Alex Pardee and the whole upper playground and that whole thing. I always thought that his artwork was so cool, and that's where I got the sort of folding, fleshy, clean line look. And I've been drawing like that ever since. Well, anyway, so just putting in some details. The thing is as well is you are going to have a lot of the pencil lines still remaining, so you are going to want to erase those, and be careful that the ink is completely dry because it can smudge. The G2 Pilot usually dries pretty quick, but just in case, sometimes it does let out a little glob or two, and it can ruin your perfectly wonderful folding name drawing, so just be careful with that. Now, I would recommend taking your time as well with all of this stuff, making it as clean as possible. I think it gives the best effect. And I usually like to put my characters on a grassy hill, as it were. So that's how you do it. You can sign and date it if you want, and yeah, that's how you make a folding name drawing. Bada bing.